Mayor Bell.
Present.
Alderman Schmidt.
Present.
Andy Schumacher.
Here.
James Barron.
Here.
Brock Fleischer is not here. Gene Frings is not here. And Travis Poles.
Here.
We have form.
All right, approval of the minutes, July 24th, 2024, Planning Commission meeting minutes. Is there any additions or corrections? Jim? Anybody got any corrections or additions? All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Any citizen comments tonight? No? All right. Public hearing. Public hearing regarding the proposed creation of tax increment district number 7, the proposed boundaries of the district and the proposed project plan for the district. All right, you're up again.
Sounds good. I'll give just a very brief overview. I think most everybody was here for the first spiel. What we're here for this afternoon is for the creation of tax increment district number 7. TID 7 is a mixed-use tax increment district, which means it's suitable for a combination of commercial, industrial, and qualifying residential development. Under state law, it has a maximum lifespan of 20 years. The district itself consists of a little over 200 acres, and the map of the district is shown on page 7 of the project plan, and then there's other subsequent maps that shows the location of the proposed projects within the plan. The district, in terms of project costs, what's listed in the plan is approximately $7.3 million of potentially TID eligible project costs. About $1.8 million of that total are really included in the cash flow analysis as really kind of phase 1 infrastructure extension projects. The other project costs, with the exception of ongoing administration expense, the potential for interest expense on debt, would only occur if there is additional development within this tax increment district and if it is then warranted by the Common Council to move forward with these TID eligible project costs. In terms of the value, what's listed in the plan is a little over $13 million of new taxable value, starting to build out yet this year and really building out, estimated build out by 2030. And that's a combination of commercial, residential development, and potentially qualifying light industrial development within the TID. In terms of the point in time where total revenues in terms of cumulative fund balance exceed our liabilities outstanding, what's shown in the plan is that the TIF district would be able to close 2 years earlier within 18 years of its maximum lifespan. And that, again, is a conservative estimate based on really just kind of known development at this time. Certainly the TIF district is large enough where there exists the possibility for a significant amount of additional incremental value to be generated within the boundaries of this TIF district that may accelerate its TIF closure year. So that is a very high-level overview. I'm happy to answer questions or go through individual tables within the project plan or talk from here.
Anybody else got any questions?
Yeah, who was the impetus or the seed for this TID?
What do you mean?
Who's sponsored?
Well, the city's creating TIF. And on the North Industrial Park, we have that gravel road.
Right.
So we want to finish that off for potential new development.
Right.
We do have some interest up there with some expansion and some other stuff I can't really talk about. So that's why we're creating this TIF. But along with the TIF, when you create the TIF, you can also do residential, and it has to be on a percentage basis. So that's why we're extending into the golf course for potential expansion at some point, and for some land that Dr. Mike owns over there, and potentially some other development.
Okay, that's all.
Yep, and in terms of the residential development, you can have upwards of no more than 35% of the total land area within the TIF district's boundary as newly platted residential development.
What's it at right now?
Significantly less than that. It would be well under that 35%.
So if that farmland that's on German Street, that's in the boundary, that would make it go over that then? If that was added in there?
That's 70 acres, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
He's talking like on German Road is there to the east, there's a 70-acre parcel that's in the city of Mayville. If that was ever going to be sold, potentially that was brought up a couple of years ago. And it was just recently sold, so I'm not sure what the guy's intention is.
Sure. Yeah, over the life of the TIF district, you really do need to make sure that you stay under that 35% threshold because it would prohibit you from moving forward.
But that could be added at a later time.
It could be, as long as, yeah.
We'd have
Yeah,
to-
you can.
We'd have to redo our calculation to make
Okay.
sure we can extend that in, or partial.
Okay, I was just curious, thanks.
You can do up to 4 territory amendments during TIF district's lifespan.
Yeah, I was looking at that map and the Thomas Farm facility and 30-year plan showing all this multifamily and RA. And that density level would really increase it close to your cap.
Yeah, and that's why we added the Thompson property into this TIF for just what you're talking about. Because I see at some point, someone's gonna probably end up buying that whole land and knock all the buildings down and open it up to condos all along the riverfront, you know, which would probably be a perfect spot for it.
They're 3-story apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? All right, anybody else in the audience got any questions? If we're on this public hearing portion? All right. Moving on, discuss with possible action, consider and possible action on a resolution to establish the boundaries of the approval of the project plan for tax increment District 7. So, is there a motion to approve boundary plans?
I'll move.
Motion by Schmidt,
I'll second that.
second by Cole. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Discuss with possible updates to the City of Mayville zoning code. I guess you guys are done.
Yep,
But thank
we're
you.
all good. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And, well, you'll see Phil in September.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Zoning.
Yeah. So Nick's not here today, but I'm filling in. My name is Nick Lysis. Within your packets, you should have the zoning code. And Nick kind of went through there when he provided some little notes on what he was thinking about, merging certain uses, principal uses, or whatever it might end up being, adding certain things, for example, tobacco store, adding also vape and CBD stores and stuff like that. So it's really just up for discussion if you guys had a chance to look at it and what you guys would like to see.
Right, well, last meeting we were talking about, we thought that our zoning code was a little bit outdated and that needed to be more streamlined with some other bigger cities and counties.
Yeah, I haven't got a chance to see what Nick sent. I don't have a packet in front of me. I had a little bit of time today, so I just literally went through our B1 and B2 ordinances, and it's a mess. If you ask me, it's a complete mess compared to like other municipalities. It's easy to go through their ordinance and figure out what you need. But if you look at like B1's ordinance for the city of Mayville, I can find it here somewhere. Here we go. If you go from B1 to B2, okay, our ordinance states, it lists everything that we could do in the central businesses, right? And then it says B2, you can do everything that's listed. Well, everything that's listed is pretty much everything listed in B1. except for a couple things. And those couple things would be like automotive sales and service, building supply store, gasoline stations, and motels. That's the only difference between B1 and B2. Why can't the city of Mayville say, here's what you can do in the central district, have them listed, and then in the B2 say, hey, you can do everything that's in B1 plus these things.
Right.
And then as you further go down the road, and do like light manufacturing M1, it would say in the ordinance, hey, you can do everything in, central business, outlying business, plus these things. And then you could also say, but you can't do these. You can't have a daycare in manufacturing. So I've been going through these one by one and trying to figure out what makes sense and what's easy to read. And this is all really brought up because after buying that old Goodyear building, there's still, when you read the city of Mayville's ordinance, the only place in our ordinance that reads a service industry is anybody know? I finally found it. It's in our highway district zoning. If you have a zoning map, look at it. There isn't a parcel in town that's zoned that, a highway district. We have it in our ordinance, but we don't even have one on a map. It doesn't exist. And that's the only place that's listed a service industry. So imagine all the potential companies out there that could be listed under a service industry. Window washers, lawn care guys, pest exterminators, the list goes on, and not one of our ordinances or zoning ordinances list a service industry. That's disheartening. A great example is dog groomer. We have a dog groomer in an outlying business zone, that would be Posey's, not Posey, what's her name? Oh, the date in there. Labark or something?
Yeah.
Sorry. That zone outlying business. If I own that company and I wanted to buy that place to run a dog groomer, it says in our B2 district that a pet store is viable, but not a pet groomer. So that's a good example. How did she get zoning for that?
Because it was a pet store, or I would say groomer's a pet store.
And I would not.
Well, how detailed do you want to get?
So, exactly. You want to get less detail.
Right.
So when you put service industry under, just like City of Beaver Dam has that listed, if you put service industry under our central, or if you want to do outlying business, wherever you want to place that would cover a lot of different companies.
Right.
And what a lot of municipalities do too, is like under their central business district, they'll say, hey, you can do a service industry as long as it's less than 5 employees. If you get big enough and you get over 5 employees, you have to come to the planning and zoning to get a conditional use to continue to service.
Part of that parking.
It's parking, exactly. So that would really ease your ordinance problem. If a company's in here trying to buy a lot in Mayville to start a company, make it vague to a point, but then all of a sudden you can start back-ending it with restrictions like, hey, you can't have more than 10 employees downtown Mayville without coming to the commission to get a conditional use.
Right.
I think it's just, and I'll work on this, you could reword this ordinance a lot easier to make it, one, less restrictive to potential businessmen.
Well, it is an issue, because I know I've talked to businesses that come to town, and one of the things they said is, hey, I'm looking at purchasing something. However, I don't know if your zoning allows it, and then of course, we're always telling them, well, then maybe you should make a condition upon city approval, planning and zoning, whatever. And that's why a lot of times they come into us and they're asking us, hey, we need to have this amended.
They come to you because when you read the ordinance, it's not very clear. When Mayville keeps listing all of the, the stores that are available in the central district, a lot of them are banks and stuff like that. Just adding vague things that if somebody wants to start a company that is not listed, but yet is just a small service company, they should have no problems getting it zoned. You know, I hate being restricted to businesses, but at the same time, you can't have, you know, stuff downtown that we don't want downtown.
And you can't have a chemical company right downtown.
Yes. But like I said, when you read the city of Beaver Dam's ordinances, when I looked at it, it's really laid out well. It's easier to read. It's less restrictive. And plus, there's a lot of things. This is another great example. Under B2 outlying business district, a principal use is listed for a dentist on there somewhere. Yeah. Dental clinics. It's listed under a principal use under B2. Okay. Then you go to their conditional use. That's B1. Conditional use for a B2. Paragraph D, section 4, professional services of an architect, interior decorator, landscape architect, lawyer, doctor, Christian practitioner, dentist, clergy, engineer. So it's listed twice. So if I wanted to start a dental company in Mayville in B2, I would be like, well, it's listed that I can, but it's also listed that I need a conditional use. Why is it listed twice? Things like that have to get cleaned up.
No, I agree. And if you think Beaver Dam's got a good, some good codes, then maybe we should look at as them as a template.
I'm not one to copy and paste.
Well, the cities do this all the time.
Yeah.
Just
Shared
saying.
resources.
Right.
This took me 10 minutes to go through just B1 and B2. And I picked up just a couple things. What I would ask this commission is to read our, especially the business parts, the commercial zoning, and think of anything that's listed on there that you think shouldn't be, or maybe should be. For an example, like in B2, I thought, well, we should add a service industry in an outlying business. I'm not sure you want a service industry downtown Mayville, but if you add it in the B2 district and say, well, M1, you can do everything in the, you know, central or, you know, outlying business district, then you know if you buy a M1 property zone, you know, property zone M1, you can have a service industry.
Right.
But I'm just one guy, and I can't come up with all these things that could happen. So I would just ask the council or the commission to go through the zoning ordinances of the business end and see if you see any red flags or things that you should add or subtract. By next meeting, I will go through all of these and have recommendations. Some of them are looking very similar to Beaver Dam's, okay? And
Well, I have a question.
yeah,
Mitch, maybe you can answer this. If we're gonna go through all of our zoning codes and stuff and change them all, does that have to be part of the comp plan, 30-year comp plan?
It's gonna be compliant.
Compliant with it, yeah.
Because we're gonna be redoing our 30-year comp plan anyways, because we're outdated.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we're gonna do all this, then we might as well go ahead and incorporate it with the 30-year plan as well.
makes sense.
Yeah, I reread, I read all those ordinances and all the zoning regulations and compared it against the 30-year plan. And it goes like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, to think that you can, you know, it's kind of like chicken and egg. The ordinance ought to line up with that plan, I think. But to your point, you know, you're going to have to put that ability to have that new business viable in town now. So wait for the 30-year plan, but it's going to clash, and then you're going to have like that Baku property was all RA1, which is 120-foot lots or single family, which is not, you know, that's maybe $500,000 a house, not $1.2 million for condos on that same acre. So, so it really is amazing how fast things change.
Yes.
At the same token, you know, if we're gonna rewrite the ordinance, get it buttoned up for our future 30-year plan, do you button that up before you're 30?
Yes.
I think you button it up because when you do a 30-year plan, you'll be busy already.
Right. Well, not only that, I think that if we button it up sooner than later, then we can gear the 30-year plan around what we finalize.
Right.
And what the council will finalize at the end.
Right. The other thing, I didn't go over the residential much at all. I was gonna ask Nick this question. So I actually go on a lot of forums about, you know, zoning and whatnot. I wish Brock was here. He'd have a little more insight about tiny homes. State of Wisconsin, it's legal to own a tiny home as long as it's to code and as long as it's on a foundation. There are a few communities in the state that allow that, and it's a good alternative for low-income housing instead of a mobile park home. Some communities already started an ordinance, basically putting those two together, mobile park with tiny homes with wheels. And then some municipalities have it separated, where if you want, or if a developer wants to put in a small tiny home subdivision, there's communities already that have it zoned.
Right.
And, well, of course, City of Mayville does not, but
Well,
I think
a lot of
30-year plan, maybe you have it in there.
Well, I think a lot of, well, that's the problem. I think here's what I see as the problem. You know, things like Jim said, things have changed and things are changing fast, because back in my day, and most people here, I think, was when you bought a home, you know, whether it was, you know, 80 to 150,000, that was your starter home, and then you buy it, you fix it up, you sell it, you get to the next progression. The problem we're having now is with these younger folks I've been talking to, a lot of them have, you know, 80, 90, $100,000 in student loan debt, and they've been paying high payments to get that paid down, and they can't come up with $350,000 to get a house.
Yeah.
So they need to have something to transition them from, you know, not the traditional starter home, maybe the tiny home's a traditional starter home going forward. So we have to, I think.
You gotta think outside the box, because we're getting to that point. You know, I'm worried my kid ain't gonna afford a home because his first home's gonna be 300,000.
Yeah.
Now, you should be proactive. I'm not saying we need a tiny home, you know, community in Mayville, but what I'm saying is if a developer thinks he can turn a profit on making one, the ordinance is there. And that's sometimes half the battle, to bring in somebody. Oh, City of Mayville has it in place. Maybe that would attract somebody. I had a customer call me today who is actually a developer and has developed for the City of Mayville numerous times. And I asked her that question, would a developer even consider that option? And she never thought of it, you know, but the first thing out of her mouth was, boy, you know, younger kids could actually benefit from that because they can't afford a regular size home. It's just her son, she was talking about her son, he can't afford a home right now. But when she thought about it, and I said, well, think about it, if you build a subdivision like say Town and Country, let's just say you put 40 homes on that one. If you take a similar size lot and you could put 80, you know, tiny homes on it, that's 80 homes for people, families, starter families that can afford it, single guys. Look at the divorce rates. There's a lot of single people out there, folks. I mean, a lot. So this may be an option in the future. And I think the City of Mayville should be proactive and get an ordinance in place that somebody, if maybe is interested, we could attract them. Now, I've always never wanted a mobile park home, you know, on the edge of town looking, you know, nobody wants that, right? Nobody. But when you look at like a tiny home, if it's a structure, it has to be a foundation, and it has to have all the utilities as a regular home. So is it possible, I asked that developer, do you think you can make money doing this? And she says, well, you got all that extra cost and all the extra pipes, because instead of putting 40 pipes in the ground, you're putting, 80. But look at the city. Could the city make more revenue? Instead of one taxed house at 300,000,
Yeah, and the perfect spots for those are on, not quite floodplain.
correct?
It's where just, if you dig a post hole, you get water. So, and
Well, I think,
that whole area, that whole park area, just off of Slag Road, that's a part of the city, I don't think it's in the floodplain, but it's near. I mean, it's gotta be 2 foot above the floodplain. That whole area is out there. But that's like a perfect use for that, because it's got that whole fence line of river around it.
You're absolutely correct. So one of the biggest tiny house communities is right along the Mississippi River in La Crosse.
Right.
And most of them are on stilts, at least the lower level. It's actually a tier because it's a bluff, But because this city or the general construction code would allow a structure or a foundation of stilts, right? That's a very plausible.
Yeah, that's what they do on it.
People, this stigma of tiny homes is people thinking they're on, wheels, which you can do that. But if it's on a wheel, it's technically an RV.
Right.
And you'd have to have that zone. City of Mabel does have a trailer park zoning. We haven't had that. But a true tiny home would have a foundation in it. If you can make it work, have it in the ordinance. So that people would want it. If they can do it, they want it. So that's something I think in the 30-year plan, we should have that in the ordinance. It's there.
How large do you make those lots?
40 foot. So here, this is one example of a ordinance for a tiny home. It's very small. It's like literally 5 sentences. But one of the is a 4,000 square foot lot. 4,000 square down. Which isn't big.
4,000 square feet, what is it?
10 by 40.
Yeah, 10 by 40.
Yeah, that's the minimum size.
Or 400.
It'd be hard to put a tiny house and a driveway on that, but you can do it.
More than that, it's more than 10 by 40.
What is it, about a 0.08 of an acre?
I will give you guys something to relate to size-wise. 4,000 square feet, I deal with this every day.
It's 40 by 100.
Yeah.
That's what the mobile home ordinance, I think you.
Yes.
Yeah,
If
home ordinance.
you went to Thresh's trailer park, all them lots are 4,000 square feet. So if you can imagine that,
Okay.
that's a 4,000 square foot.
Yeah, and you can allow an own structure.
Yeah, they allow garage. But that's the difference between a trailer park and a tiny home. Trailer park, one guy owns that land. He's getting taxed on just that property, even though it's taxed accordingly. If you have a tiny home subdivision, you have 80 people that own 80 lots. You can't tell me that would increase revenue for the city compared to 30 homes at 300,000-400,000. I haven't done the math, but I'm guessing I'm correct. So it's
All right.
it's something to think about.
More to come, right?
Yeah.
We want to put this on the agenda for next month.
Yep, we can table it to next.
Yes, and please look at least the commercial end of the zoning. And I'll come in and I'll write down what my thoughts are, but I would really like to pick the brains of everybody here.
Do you want to make a motion for that,
Table?
to table?
All right, motion to table.
I'll make a motion to table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of tabling the next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, date, time of next meeting, September 25th. Everybody should be able to make that at 4 PM? Okay.
September 25th, it's a Wednesday, right?
Yep.
4 p.m.
All right, by order of the chair, I adjourn at 4:30.
Don't I need a motion to adjourn?
What you did.
Okay. When is our 30 or 20?
Dude,